Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a systematic, highly technical security teardown of Microsoft's new Windows 11 AI agents. Look, if you're an IT manager, a system admin, or just a security-conscious power user trying to figure out exactly how this deeply integrated, agentic system is going to impact your enterprise security posture, you are in the exact right place. We're going to cut right through all the marketing jargon, tear down the underlying architecture, and look at the real-world threat models to give you the objective data you actually need.
So here's our roadmap for this teardown. First, we'll look at the Windows 11 agent architecture. Then we'll tackle the known folders vulnerability, move into threat modeling AI agents, explore the professional alternative workflow, and finally wrap up with our go/no-go deployment criteria.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, Windows 11 Agent Architecture.
To really grasp the security implications here, we have to separate the broad marketing terminology from the actual under-the-hood technical implementation. Notice the hard boundary drawn here. Microsoft actually split this ecosystem into two very distinct components. On one side, we've got the Agent Workspace. You can think of this as the runtime, basically a contained desktop session. On the other side is Copilot Actions. This is the actual agent itself, the thing going in, executing commands, opening apps, clicking, typing, and pulling data. By separating the runtime environment from the acting agent, Microsoft set up a modular foundation that technically allows for discrete security boundaries.
And to be perfectly objective, Microsoft made some genuinely solid baseline security choices right out of the gate. They actively prioritize the principle of least privilege. First off, the whole system ships off by default, which is just a huge win for enterprise admins. When you do turn it on, the runtime operates under separate, standard Windows accounts, so it doesn't just inherit full admin privileges, and it remains subject to your existing access control lists and enterprise logging tools. Plus, they implemented cryptographic security. The agents are cryptographically signed, meaning if an agent ever gets compromised, its certificate can be immediately revoked to just kill its access. Honestly, those are really smart architectural decisions.
Moving right along to Section 2, the known folders vulnerability.
Here's the catch, though. A system is really only as secure as its widest trust boundary. And the core architectural flaw of this whole setup emerges super fast when you look at exactly how the agent handles your user file access. The crucial thing to understand here is the fundamental technical difference between isolation and ephemerality. Isolation is kind of like putting a toddler in a playpen, right? They're contained. Ephemerality, on the other hand, means the playpen and the toddler completely vanish the second playtime is over. Now, Agent Workspace runs isolated in its own session, but unlike Windows Sandbox, which completely wipes the slate clean the second you close it, Agent Workspace is not ephemeral. It retains dangerous, long-standing access to your real folders even after a specific task is totally finished.
So what exactly does it have access to? Well, when Copilot Actions is enabled and needs your files, it demands read and write access to 6 specific known folders in Windows. We're talking about the Documents, Downloads, Desktop, Music, Pictures, and Videos folders. Now, if you're an IT professional or a developer, you know your Documents folder isn't just old Word files. It's packed with tax PDFs, SSH configs, and incredibly sensitive API keys. By granting this access, you are effectively exposing the entirety of your digital footprint to a non-ephemeral agent.
And this is where a really common sysadmin workaround just completely falls flat. You might be thinking, hey, no problem. I'll just isolate my secure data by moving it to an external drive or maybe a partition D drive. Well, actually, scratch that. It won't work. Windows targets these as designated known folders, not by their absolute file paths. Moving your Documents folder off the C drive literally will not hide it from the agent. Windows still knows exactly where that known folder is logically located, and the agent retains full read and write access to it no matter where you put it.
Which brings us to Section 3, Threat Modeling AI Agents.
Let's apply some threat modeling here and see how this broad, long-standing file access builds into some severely actionable attack vectors. And look, this isn't just academic theory or me being an alarmist. Microsoft explicitly warns in its own documentation that these agents are vulnerable to cross-prompt injection. Because the agent is constantly being fed external web content, images, and unverified documents, there's a very real, ever-present risk that it's going to ingest hidden malicious instructions. So, the agent reads a seemingly harmless document, but embedded right inside it is a prompt that completely hijacks the agent's behavior. Think about what happens if an injected prompt successfully hijacks an agent that already possesses broad read and write access to your known folders. The operational risks become critical instantly. First up is data exfiltration.
Imagine a hijacked agent silently searching your documents folder for banking details or SSH keys and just shipping them off to an external server. The second major risk is destructive actions. Even if there's no malicious injection, AI hallucinations happen all the time. An agent might misread a messy application interface or pull the wrong context from a file, leading it to permanently delete or overwrite the wrong data. Trading basic convenience for the risk of catastrophic data loss is just a completely upside-down trade for any enterprise.
Okay, let's talk solutions. Section 4, the professional alternative workflow.
Because of these massive risks, IT professionals should strongly consider a strictly scoped alternative workflow, at least until these architectural flaws are patched. It requires a bit more initial setup, sure, but the automation pays off big time. Step 1. You use infrastructure as code tools like Terraform and Ansible to automatically spin up a brand new task-scoped virtual machine. Step 2. Connect that VM to a powerful local LLM server, something like QN3-Coder Next. Step 3. Explicitly inject a temporary, highly limited copy of only the specific files the agent actually needs to do its job. And step 4, this is the most important part, you destroy the VM entirely the absolute moment the task completes.
The ultimate benefit of this professional stack is that you have total control over your security posture. By utilizing local LLMs rather than cloud-based endpoints, your private, sensitive data never actually leaves your physical device. It stays strictly behind explicit, narrow permission boundaries. And because you are destroying that VM, you're enforcing true ephemerality. The agent's access to your data ceases to exist the exact moment the task is finished, no lingering access whatsoever.
Finally, let's wrap things up with Section 5, Go/No-Go deployment criteria. Since we know exactly where this technology is falling short, let's establish a clear deployment checklist for when the system will actually be ready for the enterprise. These missing features are the absolute minimum technical requirements before any IT manager should ever toggle this agentic system on for their corporate users. We need granular per-app scoping, not this blanket folder access stuff. We need tamper-evident audit logs so security teams can verify exactly what an agent did. We absolutely need non-bypassable, human-in-the-loop confirmations for any destructive action, like file deletion. And we need ironclad guarantees for private on-device data processing. Until these features are native to the operating system, this entire setup remains a hard no-go. I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought to conclude our explainer. Look, the agentic operating system is absolutely the future, for sure. But as a systems architect, your mandate is to dictate and own your network's trust boundary. You simply cannot afford to just blindly rent it from a vendor's loose default settings. Demand ephemerality, demand explicit scoping, and guard your data. Thank you so much for joining me for this technical deep dive.